Yeah. He said, with the food safety issues, maybe there are opportunities for California American growers to sell into Mexico. And Mexico is a big market for the United States agriculture. There, dried fruit. California looked at funding for marketing dried fruit in Mexico. There are different niches that you have to focus on. So looking at your commodity, what do you grow and how you can be competitive, maybe if you're at a different season than they are. So there's definitely those tools available, and Foreign Ag Service looks at every single marketplace, every single country. It looks at how it's a competitor to you as well as how can it be a marketplace for you. Canada is a great market specifically for California because slightly different seasons, great demand there, great dollar value there. So that's a great marketplace in terms of Canada. Japan is a great marketplace for California producers. The European Union is a great marketplace for California producers. So, and there used to be a program on export training and I'll have to find out if we do it anymore. I know I used to do it at Farm Bureau, and educating people about what are some of the hurdles you have to get through to export markets. But you want, when Europe calls and says, "Hey, my consumers are willing to pay a lot more for that product," sometimes you think, okay, maybe I want to do that. So I'll get you, we'll talk after this and we can get that information.
In our farming operation, we get international groups, usually agricultural groups, that will come in from Korea or from Europe, and we'll do a little tour and we'll sit down and have a discussion. And frequently the topic comes up about subsidies and where the government is directly impacting growers, particularly in California, where we don't have the dairy or we don't have the cotton, the corn, the soybeans, where all of the dollars are going in California. Basically, what I explained to them is that we get 3 areas of support. One is that when the water systems were originally developed, that it was funded through the government, and now we're paying that back. So we get semi-subsidized water because of the initial investment in the infrastructure that is there. The second area is that when we have a disaster, that sometimes there will be disaster loans that will occur that will keep you propped up in the face of a disaster. But the biggest benefit that we get is through the cooperative extension, that the dollars that are put into the UC system that started out, saving the citrus industry. And today we have, like at the community college where we are in Bakersfield, they just got a $2.5 million grant for working on alternative energy sources. And they're basically just slashing their ag programs. And if you look at the agricultural industry, that it is the only industry where we actually have this huge trade surplus. That you look at the numbers in California, I don't know what, 1/3 of our production is exported. So you're taking foreign dollars and you're bringing them into depressed economies, and that there is a perception that agriculture, the dollars going into agriculture are going to the fat cats, or that it's a pork barrel project, and that particularly when you look at ag education, you look at the lower level ag lending that occurs, especially when disasters occur, and you look at the monies going into the water projects to keep us wet. In our operation that we started with the FSA loan, we wouldn't have done it without a direct loan from the government. We've been able to survive one disaster with a disaster loan as well. But the cuts that are in education right now are just counterintuitive. The cuts that we see that are going on in the water, it's difficult to be an environmentalist and also see that they're going to establish salmon in a river that hasn't had fish in it for 50, 60 years, hasn't had water. So I love to fish, I love the environment, but I also hate to see next year the beginning of loss of 20% of the water. So the only areas that we're benefiting on the government, again, is in what's going on with the UC Cooperative Extension. It's ironic that we're at a conference that has been eliminated. And that if I was to say what message to take back, it would be, you look at the funding that's through the Farm Service Agency, look at the funding going to Cooperative Extension, and look at anything that can be done to sustain the water, that sustains the agriculture, that sustains the exports, that supports communities where our community has a 45% unemployment rate, and that's the official rate. That's not the
Right.
real rate of unemployment. So that's my comment.
I agree with your comments. So. about many of the things that. Well, I think, one of the things that he raised, and one of the things that is the Small Farmers Center, I guess, that you guys talked about that you had to close, and I was thinking, I need to go back and talk about that with some people, because our focus is helping the next generation be successful and thrive into the 21st century, but we clearly need to give you the tools in order to do that. If you don't have the tools, then you won't be able to do that. So we need to find, not only looking at the funding that we provide today through, farmers market promotion, $50 million for EQIP, but what are some other things that we need to do? So this has added some more things to the list that we need to go back and find. Yep.
And that was actually my question. What is the USDA doing to support the education of the next generation of farmers as producers and growers?
Well, a lot of our grant programs are focused on educating and training. So the block grants can be a tool that you can use. You can look at, okay, what specific training and education needs to be implemented here in my area? What are some of the struggles that you're facing? And the block grants is one tool. The federal, state, FSMIP is what we refer to it. That's a great program that you can use. The Farmers Market Promotion Program that you can use. So those are all tools that you can utilize in tackling many of these issues. Where we need to look at funding is some of the other things you talked about, co-op extension, finding some funding there. But for training, education, for cost share programs, a lot of states have used their specialty crop block grant funds to do cost shares so you can meet different certification programs. Of course, we have the National Organic Cost Share Program that you can participate in. But those are some tools that you can use today to address some of those needs.
I have one. The Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food campaign seems like a motto that a lot of us can get behind. Is there a way that individual farmers can be involved in that campaign or can leverage it for their own marketing?
That's a good question. We're talking to different groups in terms of how to use that campaign. I think I'll have to look into how you could specifically use it for your program, but definitely if you participated in a grant program or received funding or on a different committee, you could do it, but we should talk later about that. I can find out more about what you do and then we can talk about that.
My question is, what is the government, and particularly the USDA, is this better? Is this better? All right, is this better? All right. What is the government, specifically the USDA, doing to ensure the safety of products coming to the marketplace and protect the consumer, especially with regards to genetically modified foods and high fructose corn syrup, which has been shown to be one of the causes of the rising obesity in this country?
Those two issues that you bring up, there are FDA issues as well, so we're working in partnership with FDA on discussing those issues, but food safety is primarily FDA oversight. So we work with them in terms of, we have a person on detail right now at FDA in terms of the development of food safety standards, but we have a lot of discussions, but that's primarily their jurisdiction in terms of food safety issues that you've raised. So I can talk with FDA. We talk on a regular basis about the various issues, and we can talk about that in our next meeting.